Tonight we talk about three of my favorite subjects. We're going to talk about guns, we're going to talk about weed, and we're going to talk about beer. Only on Kibbe on Liberty. In 2016, I bought my first gun. Check it out, it's right here. It's a standard 9mm for self-defense. I know what you're thinking. Kibbe, you're one of those crazy libertarian types. We all assumed that you had a private arsenal in your basement along with your go bag and enough potable water to survive the zombie apocalypse. But no gun? Why'd you wait so long? The truth is that until 2016, owning a gun felt like a choice. Now, it feels like a responsibility. I'm lucky to live in a country with a constitution that explicitly protects the right to bear arms, a constitution that's notoriously and intentionally hard to change. In France, on the other hand, it's virtually impossible to own a gun legally. I didn't know just how impossible it is to own a gun in France until the aftermath of the terrorist shooting at the Bataclan Theater during an Eagles of Death metal concert. As someone who has attended hundreds of concerts over the years, this particular act of brutality stuck with me. In a world where acts of terror grow more and more decentralized and organic, do we really believe that a centralized response, where overextended law enforcement owned all the guns, will be safer? I don't think so. It seems so obvious. Still, the appetite for gun grabbing seems to grow stronger with each passing year. As politicians and bureaucrats tell us we shouldn't have the right to defend ourselves for our own safety. Every time there's a terrorist attack or a school shooting, the pressure to relinquish our rights grows stronger, and clever attorneys come up with new loopholes to try to circumvent the ironclad language in the Second Amendment. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Maybe the gun grabbers mean well. Maybe they actually do care about my safety, and they think banning guns will help. It's possible, but I'm also a student of history to know enough that every time a totalitarian regime, every oppressive dictatorship from Nazi Germany to the Soviet Union to the Chinese communists and the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia, they start by grabbing the guns. When the state owns all the weapons, there's not much the people can do to resist. In Venezuela, for instance, seizing guns has been a priority for socialist dictator Nicolas Maduro. He says it's for public safety, but you and I know what he's really up to, don't we? So I bought a gun, and I learned how to handle it through the right training, because I felt I had to. I had to take personal responsibility for my family's safety while I still could. Remember, I live in Washington, D.C. It's not quite France, but they make arming yourself here as difficult as you could possibly imagine, even in the shadow of a Supreme Court dedicated to upholding the letter of the Constitution. Owning a gun is not for everyone, exactly because it's a big responsibility. Will the right to bear arms survive the next mass shooting? I'd like to think so, but I'm a Boy Scout. As we say, it's better to be prepared. So, guns, beer, weed. I'm going to put this gun away because I want to open my beer. And the first thing I was taught in gun safety class is don't drink and shoot at the same time. That's not the first thing, but first thing is keep your finger off the trigger, but that seems like common sense. So the gun is away. And today we are drinking a delicious Imperial Porter. Oh, look at that. It looks like motor oil, doesn't it? This is from my buddies at Aslan Brewing in Herndon, Virginia. And this one's called Cocoa Maypalm. Sounds scary, but it's really awesome. It's an Imperial Porter. No, it's an Imperial Stout, actually. It's an Imperial Stout that's finished with, obviously, cocoa, coffee, and maple syrup. So it's like a meal in a glass, and I'm going to have a little bit of that right now. Why am I drinking beer? Because, of course, beer is a gateway drug to weed, and I want to talk a little bit about weed and guns, because something is going on right now that baffles the hell out of me. It seems like conservatives are happy that liberal states like Hawaii are grabbing guns, if only because you have a medical marijuana license, permit, whatever it is. You're legally allowed to have medical cannabis in states like Hawaii, which gets us to not fake news. Oh, I didn't even open the right, I haven't opened the right thing. Okay, today's article comes from The Fix, and the headline is Medical Marijuana Patients Are Being Told to Give Up Their Guns. This has been going on in Hawaii and Pennsylvania and a number of other states. You have 29 states plus the District of Columbia that have legalized some form of medical cannabis. Well, now they've discovered an ancient federal law passed in 1968 that is allowing them to not only deny license to own guns, but to actually grab guns. Hawaii is insisting that everybody that has a medical cannabis card actually turns in all of their guns. Where is the outrage? This is freaking crazy. Don't we believe that everybody has a right to defend themselves? Isn't that what the Second Amendment is all about? Both civil libertarians on the left and honest constitutional conservatives on the right, they need to be pissed off about this. This is crazy. This is happening right now. I want to switch to something a little more personal. As you can tell, I'm kind of fired up about this. I went out for the first time and bought a gun to defend my family and defend my community. I also tried years ago, when I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, to legally acquire medical cannabis. I wanted to see if it would help solve my problem. Let me show you this video I made in response to Jeff Sessions. In 2001, I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. My doctor actually found a tumor the size of a small football in my abdomen. After hours of surgery, I was put on a massive cocktail of chemotherapy, including cisplatin and etoposide. The side effects of chemo include everything from loss of appetite, I lost 45 pounds, to nerve damage in your hands and your feet, to destruction of your white blood cells, which protects you from disease, your red blood cells, so you become anemic. All of these things happen above and beyond things that people know about. In my case, I lived in the District of Columbia, and I knew that the district had legalized medical marijuana. I thought it was something that I wanted to try, if nothing else, to get my mind off what I was going through, maybe to manage the nausea, maybe to take some of the pain away, only to discover that Republicans in Washington, D.C. had prevented the district from actually implementing medical marijuana. I tell this story because Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, is doing exactly the same thing today. And I have a couple questions for him. Are you a conservative? Do conservatives actually believe in federalism? We always talk about it. We always believe that states should have the right to make those decisions for themselves, and yet you want to stop states from allowing medical marijuana. Do we believe in patients choosing? Do we believe that healthcare is a decision between me and my doctor? We always talk about that when we're opposed to government-run healthcare. Does it apply to medical marijuana? My last question for Jeff Sessions is, do you know what it's like? Do you know what it's like to feel the way I felt? Do you know that somebody today is facing that choice? Do you want to stop that person from doing better for themselves? I don't. And I don't think other Republicans, I don't think any conservatives should support a federal government that stops states from allowing patients to choose medical marijuana. Obviously, having stage 4 cancer and particularly going through the toxic chemo cocktail that I did was a pretty crappy experience. I'm not a victim. I'm not looking for anyone to feel sorry for me, but it does upset me that people today who are going through things far worse than anything I ever did don't have that choice. Don't have that choice because of a conservative who claims to respect constitutional restraint on federal power. I don't get it. Of course, other conservatives don't get it as well for the reasons I was talking about, which leads us to our next segment, my favorite. It's time to feed the trolls. Okay, first troll. And by the way, these are all responses to that video on Facebook. So these are real people. I'm only going to give you their first names. And my theory about Facebook comments is a little bit about driving with your window up. You would say things to your fellow drivers that you would never say to their face. And I'm going to read you some of those quotes. They're kind of awesome, actually. George says, "Oh yeah, marijuana is a miracle drug. No side effects, perfectly healthy, perfectly safe, miracle drug." And I hear a lot of comments like that from conservatives who feel that pot's a dangerous thing and we need to know more, we need to study more, you need a prescription. I hear all sorts of that stuff. Fred doubles down a little bit. Well, more than a little bit. And he's talking about me now, your favorite host here on Kibbe on Liberty. Fred says, "Is this guy honestly stupid enough to believe the Attorney General creates the law? Damn, go back to junior high school and take a civics class." Finally, my favorite, John says that Jeff Sessions is enforcing federal law where it applies. He doesn't write the laws. His oath is to enforce existing law. If you need a federal law change, then lobby for that. He accuses me of something he calls Kimmelism, as in Jimmy Kimmel, who cries every time a lion is shot in Africa. And a Kimmelism, according to John, is a personal anecdote universally applied to all people due to your sense of your own celebrity. You do not support federalism, and neither does your annoying mustache. Keep toking, mustache. So let me answer these all at once. First of all, I have to say, objectively speaking, and I don't think this is opinion, this is science, my mustache is freaking awesome. It's better, I think, than John Bolton's mustache. You know, everybody talks about John Bolton's mustache and how awesome it is. Mine's better. So, John, grow one if you could. But let's talk about this other thing. You know, George says marijuana is a miracle drug. He's being sarcastic. Perfectly healthy, perfectly safe miracle drug. Here's news for you. If you are doing chemotherapy, if you're doing the cocktail I did, you have an entire arsenal of poisons that you're injecting into your body. There's nothing safe about it. There's nothing effective. You're trying to kill certain cells in your body. And the fallout from that could lead to your death. Most cancer patients don't die of cancer. They die of chemotherapy. So why would you lecture a cancer patient about whether or not marijuana is safe and effective? You don't know what you're talking about. And you also don't understand that there is plenty of anecdotal evidence. There's plenty of real experience that shows that patients find relief while doing chemotherapy by smoking marijuana. I don't know. I wasn't given the opportunity to do that. But here's the biggest thing that bothers me. Everyone's saying that Jeff Sessions is enforcing current law. No, he's not. He's lobbying actively against current law, something called the Rohrabacher Amendment that prohibits the federal government from interfering in the decisions by states on medical cannabis. I can post the letter from Jeff Sessions to Congress asking them to change the law. Imagine if the Obama administration had done this. Do you remember when activist heads of the Justice Department were actively lobbying for their progressive agendas and we're like, why aren't you just enforcing the law? Well, now we're doing it. Now we have agendas. Now we have weaponized the Justice Department to go after states for making those choices. I think it's wrong. I think it's not conservative. And I think, as will always be the case, my trolls got it all wrong. I think that's all for now. Kibbe on Liberty, I got this beer to drink. It's clocking in at over 10% alcohol, so you're not going to want to listen to me after I'm done with it. Thank you for joining.